Okay, thank you for coming, everyone. We're here to provide an update on the Dane Nisbet homicide investigation. I'd like to provide a quick overview of the case, just to help everyone understand the process that brings us here today. On April 10th, 2026, at 12:52 a.m., police were called to Lambton College to a campus bar for a report of gunfire. Upon arrival, police located 3 injured parties, 1 with life-threatening injuries and 2 with non-life-threatening injuries. Despite life-saving efforts at the scene and in hospital, 20-year-old Dane Nisbet was later pronounced deceased. The 2 other males, both friends of Dane's, were also struck by gunfire but survived. They are expected to recover from their physical injuries. The family of Dane Nisbet, his friends, and our community have been devastated by this crime. We continue to extend our condolences to the Nisbet family as they mourn such an unfathomable loss. Since that night, the Sarnia Police Service has been dedicated to bringing those believed responsible into custody. From the moment this was reported, every team, every unit, civilian and sworn members have been working relentlessly on this case. Within hours of the shooting, 2 arrests occurred later that morning. 2 females were arrested who were believed to be in the company of the suspects both before and after the murder. We interviewed them and they were released based on the early information available at that time. The following day, April 11th, as the investigation evolved, the Sarnia Police Service, homicide investigators, our emergency response team, and other support services from London Police Service executed search warrants in the City of London. Inside one of the residences was a male identified as Odom Bunn. He is believed to be the 2nd male suspect involved in the shooting. He was arrested and charged with multiple offenses. He remains before the courts and remains in custody. On that same day, April 11th, the day after the murder, an arrest warrant was issued for Kya Do on charges of 2nd-degree murder as the primary suspect in the killing of Dane Nisbet. His whereabouts at that time were unknown. On April 12th, our investigative team, along with our emergency response unit and K-9 unit, executed 2 search warrants, one at a Sarnia residence and the second at a Point Edward hotel. A 19-year-old female, one of the 2 females previously identified but released earlier, was arrested again. As a result of newly developed evidence, she now faces multiple charges and she too remains before the courts and remains in custody. At the Point Edward Hotel, where the emergency response team again executed the warrant, a male party was located inside that hotel. Sarnia Police also recovered a handgun at that location. That 19-year-old male was arrested, faces multiple charges, and is also before the court. With respect to the firearm recovered, that weapon, we now believe it to be the murder weapon, is a Glock Model 45 handgun. It was found in a hotel safe with a magazine inserted. This magazine is capable of holding 30 rounds of ammunition. This weapon is believed to have been smuggled into Canada from the United States. Our team, working with the US ATF, now knows that this weapon originated out of Georgia, where the last record of a transaction involving it occurred in February of 2022. This is an illegal firearm smuggled into our country that has been in circulation for the past 4 years. Forensic and ballistic examinations are still being conducted, and we hope more information will be available in the future. Part of our investigative focus at that point was to locate Mr. Doe. One of the key points that we did as far as that went was we partnered with Crimestoppers. The Crimestoppers is an independent third-party organization They are not directed by or influenced by in any way the police service. They are completely independent. The original reward stood at $5,000. The Sarnia Police Services Board donated $20,000 additional to that effort, and a private donation from Sarnia Councillor Bill Dennis and his family resulted in the reward being increased to $50,000. This reward level is a record for Sarnia Lambton Crimestoppers. And I know that the public and the media may have some questions pertaining specifically to Crimestoppers, so please let me try to answer some of those right now. We cannot provide any information about what may or may not have happened with the reward, nor even if any tips were received. Crimestoppers is built around anonymity. It's protected by the courts, and it's protected by us. What we can say is that this record Crimestoppers reward certainly helped raise the profile of this case across our county, across the province, and across the country. It certainly helped make our public appeals more prominent, and for that we thank the Crimestoppers team, we thank the generous donators, and I think it was an important aspect, certainly with reaching out to public for their assistance. For the past 2 weeks, our investigators have been pursuing every lead. Our team, with the assistance of the London Police Service, even went right into Mr. Doe's neighborhood to conduct a canvass. Behind the scenes, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes, we've been in contact with our many policing partners, special teams, different units, and police agencies across the province as far as Edmonton, Alberta, in looking at the different aspects of this investigation. Yesterday, Monday, April 27th, Sarnia Police Homicide investigators identified a residence in the City of London where Mr. Doe was believed to be in hiding. With the assistance of London Police, including the use of their emergency response unit, the residence was contained, and with Mr. Doe ultimately surrendering to the police presence that was there. He was placed under arrest and turned over to the Sarnia Police Service for transport back here to allow the investigators to continue their case. At this time, Kya Doe of London, Ontario, has been arrested. He's been charged with multiple offenses. He appeared in bail court this morning. He was remanded into custody to reappear in bail court on May 1st. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes.
Chief Davis, can you say where in London that arrest was effected?
Are we? What's this? Give the you got a neighborhood? Ranchwood Crescent.
Do you have the address or?
We'll just say the area of
Okay,
Ranchwood.
gotcha.
Ranchwood Crescent.
Can you talk a bit about, are you able to talk a bit about how it went down, and were Sarnia Police also present at the scene?
The Sarnia Police team identified the residence. It was our investigators that identified that area, that location of interest, and then we notified London Police, and because it's their jurisdiction, and because they've been very helpful in this investigation, graciously provided resources for us to be able to continue that investigation there.
Okay. You said he ultimately surrendered. Was there a gap in between or something where there was any kind of resistance? Are you able to speak about that at all?
I can speak in generalities. When there's a suspect involved in a violent crime, when there is an opportunity for officers to not have to directly engage and to safely ask that person to leave the residence, that is the safest practice.
Whose house was it?
We don't have that available at this time.
Will there be, have there been any more arrests, or will there be any arrests as far as accessory?
Yeah, I can say that this is still an open investigation, and anyone who has been an accessory to hiding or concealing or having any involvement in this murder investigation will certainly be looked at, and if charges are appropriate, they'll be laid.
Okay. But he was actually hiding in a house. Is that, that's kind of how you termed it?
I think we can all recognize that he's fairly identifiable based on his general appearance and the pictures that we've been released. It would be very difficult for him to circulate, certainly in the daylight. And I think that it wasn't looking like a very long-term situation for him.
I know it was London police who effected the arrest, but are you able to describe at all kind of how it went down? Like, was it a quick and easy, or was it, did you have to wait for a long time?
I could say it was relatively quick with no incidents involved at all. Everything went standard training. It went. The arrest was without incident.
Can you say if he was found to have any weapons on him at that time?
There's nothing found on him at the time, but that investigation is still ongoing in terms of the pieces around his arrest and where he was found.
Does he have a lawyer now?
I would assume so. Yes.
Had his appearance been changed?
I could say there was in the initial part there was looked like what was an attempt to conceal one of the visible tattoos, but generally no.
A question, and this is not about yesterday so much, but in the original event, have you confirmed that he, or that you believe he pulled the trigger?
He's been charged with second-degree murder because we have the belief that he is the primary suspect in the shooting of Dane Nisbet.
Now, I know one other suspect is also charged with second-degree murder. I'm assuming one of them fired the weapon. Can you explain, I guess, a little bit about the legalese as far as...
I'll defer to the investigative team for the details, but
Sure.
I believe the second suspect's charges have been updated to accessory. So the second-degree murder charges are no longer, I'll just confirm, by the Crown.
There's conversation with the Crown.
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah. So what's the, you go ahead.
So from our investigation, obviously Kaya Do is the alleged shooter. Everybody else who was present, who are charged, are people who weren't directly involved in the shooting, but did participate in the escape and the movement of the firearm afterwards. So we have one killer, and the rest were accessories.
So Odom Richard Bunn, his charges have been
That's
changed?
the Crown's decision. As of right now, he's still charged, I believe, with the original charges. There's a chance the Crown may do that, but that's something that the Crown will do, will not be our decision.
Can you talk about what ultimately led you to that address in London where he was found?
Unfortunately, I can't comment on that. That's there's some investigative techniques that we're not going to disclose at this point in time.
Can you also talk about the other two victims, what their status is health-wise and otherwise?
I'll defer to Detective Mitchell.
Good afternoon. In respects to the other shooting victims, like the chief said, they are expected to make a full recovery. At the time, they each sustained non-life-threatening injuries, and out of respect for their privacy and their family and friends, we're just going to leave them.
Are they out of the hospital? Are the two of them out of the hospital?
Yes, they are both out of the hospital and are recovering at this time.
Can you talk a little bit more about the level of cooperation with other law enforcement agencies? I mean, you mentioned Edmonton, you mentioned the ATF. Can you quantify just how many other law enforcement agencies you worked with?
Well, anytime we have something of this magnitude, we send out messages to our policing partners across Ontario, across Canada, our border security, CBSA, U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, like every agency will get notified of our suspect with his image. The broader we can cast that net, then the greater chance of us getting information that will help us identify them. I can also say we did engage the OPP with their rope unit. We had members of the rope unit that were actively looking into this. We spared no expense, we took no chance on leaving anybody out. Anybody who was willing to assist us with this, we took their assistance and got us here to today.
You mentioned the rope unit, their repeat offender squad. Was he known previously to police?
I can't comment on that.
Deputy Chief, maybe you can comment, if you can at all, the gun ended up in someone else's hands who's been charged. Can we comment on how that person had a previous criminal activity? Any comment as to how this person became part of this case?
Well, we know that one of the individuals that left in that car came back to Sarnia with the firearm, and that firearm subsequently made its way into Mr. Osborne Walsh's custody. So it was just a natural I think it was a continuous flow of the firearm leaving the scene of the shooting to the drop-off where Mr. Doe was dropped off, and then back to Sarnia, and then ultimately given to Mr. Oswald Walsh.
Are you thinking maybe there's some sort of criminal network that's been kind of disturbed now, where obviously these people, there was some sort of familiarity among these multiple people?
There probably is some familiarity. I can't speak specifically to that, but there is obviously in London and Sarnia, there is ties there, so it's not unreasonable to believe that there's some connection between them. But I can't say for sure.
Apologies if you already said, but what time did this happen yesterday?
20 after 6, roughly?
20
Yeah,
after
yeah.
6.
PM.
Can you talk a little bit more, do you know more about the original dispute that led to his killing? You know, do you have any more details you can share about what that was about?
All I can say is there was something that occurred inside the bar where somebody got offended and there was some words exchanged that escalated into a potential physical altercation that was to take place outside, and it never actually came to that. Unfortunately, it resulted in a shooting before it started as a fight.
Are you able to say how Doe and his party acquired the firearm?
That we don't know. We're still investigating that aspect. Now, obviously, you know, having firearms in possession of people who are willing to use them is a major concern. Firearms being brought into the country illegally is a major concern, and you know, obviously, we'll continue to look into that to see if this firearm was also, as the chief said, was involved in other crimes, and we'll establish that through ballistics.
You mentioned in your initial announcement back when this first happened that Mr. Doe at the bar seemed to be looking for trouble or causing trouble. Did you find through this, was he looking to target anyone in particular?
No. I think through all of the interactions, each person that was interacting with Mr. Doe was random. I think it was just a matter of opportunity for someone to maybe look at him the wrong way, or bump into him, or bump into somebody in his group. It wasn't that he went and targeted specific people. I think it was just anybody that gave him that need to become aggressive. I think that's the focus, you know, that led to where we are.
Had he been doing the same thing at other venues, other establishments prior to that, on that night?
So we've established that they were at two previous locations, one being Chuck's and one being Two Amigos. And at Chuck's, there was an altercation outside. And then at Two's, there was somewhat of an altercation, but we never got called to that one. We got called to Chuck's.
And what was the result of your attendance at Chuck's?
So when we got called to Chuck's, it was for a disturbance and a possible male with a firearm. And the description was a young, short Asian male and a tall brown male. When our officer, and the front door glass had been broken. When our officers arrived there, we were directed to a brown male that had left the street across Exmouth towards the Dairy Queen. So officers believe that individual was part of the entire call. We located that individual hiding behind a dumpster across from the Dairy Queen. We subsequently learned that individual was not involved in the actual melee. He broke the window, but the person who was described with the handgun had already fled in a car, and there was no descriptors of that particular car that he left in, and this happened over just under 2 hours prior. So we did send officers immediately to the scene. We checked the area for every possible suspect, and unfortunately, we did not have enough details to locate Mr. Doe and his party at that time.
And do you know, can you say a little bit more about how Doe and the others who have been charged, how they all knew each other?
Just associates. I think it was two guys and two girls out socially, and that's what led them here to go to the different bars and hang out, I guess.
And sorry, you may have already said this, but did Doe have a criminal record?
That I can't comment on. I think that's now that the matter's before the courts, that will all be something that will come out through the court process.
And which facility is he in right now? Like, can you say where he's at?
Yeah, he would be at the Sarnia jail right now. And again, he's back up in court on May 1st.
Is there any evidence of gang activity that can cover that?
Nothing that we can say that we can confirm. I mean, obviously, whenever there's firearms involved, we always turn our minds to guns and gangs because they are synonymous. So I'll just leave it at that. I can't say that we've established there is gangs, but certainly can't rule it out.
It's you expect any more arrests at this time?
I believe we've caught everybody that we're gonna catch. I think, if I could just point out, the investigators, who've been working tirelessly, they're in the room, the back, all these individuals, and there's many, many more who were involved. They deserve a lot of credit for the effort that they did, and it's a proud day for the Sarnia Police Service that we can bring justice to Dane and Dane's family.
Was anybody harboring Doe in London?
Not that we can establish.
Can you say whether the residence where he was found, did he have any sort of previous connection to that residence? Like, was it a family member, was it a friend, anything like that?
I think we're just gonna, we're not gonna comment on that. Any other questions?
Just one more.
Sure.
Chief Davis said the case is ongoing. What do you expect to happen next?
Well, what I expect to happen next is there'll be probably bail applications. There'll be potentially a court process. Unfortunately, the family will be dragged through this for months and months and months. As far as the investigation, we're looking into the firearm. Our investigation doesn't end until conviction is registered. So if new information came in that led us to believe somebody was harboring him, we'll certainly follow that up. But until there's a conviction registered, we'll keep following any information that comes available.
I have a pretty basic question. Can everyone say their names, please? And
Yeah.
so we just have the right spelling and ID of everyone?
So I'm Ron Hansen, Hansen, and Deputy Chief.
Derek Davis, DEREKDAVIS. Chief, please.
Detective Josh Mitchell, JOSHMITCHELO.
Detective Reg Musco, REGMUSCLOW.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming out, Chief. I'll just,
This is separate from the investigation, but just for our local journalists in particular, I think this is gonna come up. I want everyone to know that our primary consideration here is the respect for the family. You will undoubtedly hear local reporters in probably about an hour and a half from a local blog site that they were not allowed to be in here, and I'm gonna explain why. Anyone who is incapable of decorum and demonstrates egregious behavior, we can't have to keep the respect level that's necessary for this family. So that decision was made by the organization. When you hear about it, I'm happy to speak to it, but I'll just save you the trip and tell you that it's about respect. It's about basic decorum. It's about being reasonable, and we have to be able to protect certainly the family from any nonsense and the integrity of this organization and this investigation. So thank you.
Is there anything that the family would like to say or a message that they would like to send? If not, totally fine.
I don't think so at this time. The family may decide in the future that they may wish to make a statement. It's entirely up to them. But at this time, I think they just ask that everyone respects their privacy. Thank you.